he still needs to turn it around this weekend. He still massively needs to turn it around this weekend, because this game will get you a bit of credit. But if you lose again this weekend in Serie A, then the pressure definitely hasn't gone anywhere.
Definitely comes up.
Welcome to the newly branded VAR and Manchester United podcast. As always, my name is Rory. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod, and I'm joined by my very good friend
Adam. Hey Rory, how are you doing? Yes, we were blessed with lots of VAR action, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that, as well as Man United again collapsing in Copenhagen. Their fans can't Copenhagen with it, can they, at the moment? But more importantly, mate, how are you doing this fine evening?
Yeah, I'm good. Arsenal finally won a game, so that's nice. You don't want to be doing 3 games losing in a row. 2 is enough, I think.
Yes.
Basta with 2. So, yeah, it was nice to get back to winning ways. It was fairly comfortable, to be honest. And because of the delay to the Manchester United game, I got to enjoy the last 15 minutes of that as well. So, yeah, not bad. How are we doing?
Yeah, no, I was really enjoying the football. I think it has to be said. A lot of question marks, a lot of kind of groups almost decided, it has to be said as well. So I'm sure we'll be going through that. But we also got to preview the upcoming Serie A fixtures as well as the Premier League. Some juicy ties, including the Derby, the Italia, or Derby Capitale even. Sorry, I'm thinking too far ahead. Sorry.
Not quite yet.
But not quite yet. Not quite yet. But yes, I cannot look or wait to look forward to those games as well. So let's dive into it.
It's going to be a banger. So, yeah, we are going to be talking all Champions League action, the state of the groups, who's in, who's out, how much we can laugh at Manchester United. We're going to be doing a little bit of Europa League as the games are still going on now, but a few results have come in. We'll be doing a little bit of, the Cool Kids Club and the Even Cooler Kids Club. It's been a while since we've used our specially branded names for the Europa Conference League. We'll do a little bit around up there. And then we will preview the Premier League and Serie A weekends. Some massive fixtures, as Adam did say. So we are going to go for a very quick break. And after this, we will see you on the other side. All right. How we doing? Welcome back. And it is time to talk about the Champions League. Another cracking round of fixtures. Lots of goals. English teams / British teams not doing very well. A lot of L's on the board. But let's start on Tuesday, Adam. Let's start with the early kickoff. Let's start in Germany, in Dortmund, as Füllkrug scores. That kind of one of the glory happy stories from the World Cup, right? It's great to see him still kind of semi-killing it in Dortmund. Him getting the opener, and Julian Brandt with a great composed finish towards the end on the break to give Dortmund the 2-0 win. It puts Newcastle bottom of the group. My prediction, a bit in the mud, but this group is very, very tight. What did you think of this performance from Newcastle and from Dortmund? I think Dortmund might look like the most coherent team in this group so far.
At the moment, they seem the most sensible option out of this group, don't they? And they are proving everyone wrong. I think pretty much most pundits or people had them to finish bottom. I certainly did. I didn't think we would see this performance, especially when you consider the back set of what happened over the weekends. They got demolished by Bayern Munich to then kind of pull this performance out of the bag. It's interesting, but also we have to kind of put a bit of question marks on Eddie Howe and obviously Newcastle. They didn't seem up for this particular match, and it seemed like once that goal was conceded, then they started to kick into life. But there's a number of poor performances across the board. It has to be said, the likes of Guimaraes, who we kind of, I suppose, semi-highlighted in the Arsenal match. I think he's got a bit of a loose nut there. Trippier, not his best performance, it has to be said. And I think the standout performances was the likes from Joel Linton and Livramento. And you wouldn't necessarily associate those two names as being your kind of highlights for the game, but they were for a Newcastle perspective. And full of credit to Borussia Dortmund, the way they approached it, full of attack, full of spirit. And yes, I think that was Sabitzer's best game for Dortmund, it has to be said. I mean, he was stringing all these passes and he was incredible. I mean, it's kind of like fulfilling that kind of promise that Edin Terzic has put into him since he brought him across. So, what was your opinions of the game?
Yeah, I think, look, Dortmund have just come off that massive annual loss to Bayern Munich,
Mm.
right? I think they had like a
Yeah.
point to prove. Newcastle obviously off a buoyant win. I was surprised at how placid Newcastle were. Really, they seemed just
Yeah.
I think Eddie Howe kind of addressed it in his post match comments as well. Like they didn't hit the levels
Mm.
that they usually do. They didn't have the intensity. They didn't have the running in them. I think it is really interesting how Livramento has slotted into the team so well and looked so assured
Mm.
and shown so much quality. Like we've talked about him before and how good he was at Southampton, but I was really,
Yeah.
really impressed with him. And in that kind of like attacking role, he wasn't actually playing as a wing
Yeah.
back. It was like really, really attacking, which I think is something that he has got that in his game. He is very strong going forward. So I
Mm.
think it's interesting to see how versatile he can be as well.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe being willing to be versatile with him as well. But yeah, I think maybe this was a bit like after the Lord Mayor's show, like you've had a big performance, you've had a big like result, and then maybe it's kind of
Mm.
hard to come back after that. And especially going away in Europe is always different, right? It's always
Yeah.
difficult, all the other cliches. And Dortmund is, even though they are like chaos and incredibly hard to predict and will break your
Yeah.
heart at every opportunity, they are still deep down just a very good team. And like I think Marcel Sabitzer, when he was at United, I'm surprised they didn't really try and keep hold of him, because I think in a season that was average for United, he was one of
Mhm.
the bright sparks when he came in,
Yeah.
when you were like, oh, okay, I can see what this guy offers. His technical ability is insane. So I think, yeah, it's great to see him like finding a home there. And then Julian Brandt, I always enjoy seeing him score. Always enjoy seeing him score,
Mm.
because I feel like he's a player that had so much promise and there was so much hype about
Mm.
him. And his career
Yeah.
kind of went off the wagon a little bit, kind of disappeared. So I'm always kind of waiting for him to hit those heights again. I always remember him being linked with Arsenal and me being very excited
Yeah.
about us getting him. But it was a really, really well taken goal, very composed, kept a
Mhm.
calm
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
and just killed off the game at that point. So I think, but it was absolutely massive for Dortmund, because when you look at the table, that now puts them top, which is mental,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But it is a very tight group. So they're on 7 points,
Yeah.
PSG on 6 points, Milan on 5 points, and Newcastle on 4.
Mm.
So yeah, it kind of puts Dortmund in the driving seat a little bit. I think the
Mm.
upcoming fixtures they've got to play PSG at home and then Milan away, I think, are the fixtures they have.
Yeah.
Milan away, I think they could probably do, and PSG at home, I wouldn't put against them either, if you know what I mean. Like, I think
Mm.
any team at home is going to kind of struggle there. So I think Dortmund really, really in a strong position there. Newcastle
Mm.
now, again, they've got to play Milan at home and PSG away. I think Milan at home, they'll be feeling pretty confident about. Any games at home, they'll feel pretty confident about. I think PSG is going to be a tricky one, even if they did
Yeah.
absolutely batter them at St. James's Park. I get a feeling PSG aren't going to let that happen again, right?
No, I think their fans are going to make sure it's quite a tough cauldron for them as well, because obviously, yeah, we saw what happened in the first game at St James Park. We saw lots of videos outside of the game as well.
Yeah.
So I think that those fans are going to be well targeted, shall we say?
If I'm a Newcastle fan, there's no way I'm traveling to Paris. But we obviously, I live in Milan, and the stories this week and the scenes in Milan from the Paris fans have been fucking frightening. There was it was reported on the Italian news as like the first orchestrated football battle in the city for a very long time. So it was like organized armies basically in the Navigli area of Milan, which is like where all the canals are and stuff. Really nice area, but full of
Yeah.
bars. And apparently it was absolute chaos. The Paris fans were just causing, all sorts of trouble. So if I'm a Newcastle fan, you couldn't pay me to go to Paris to watch a game. And I think, their reception is going to be pretty spicy. But we should go to PSG Milan. It happened in this fair city that I call home.
Exactly.
And I was massively surprised. I don't know if I was as surprised as Stefano Pioli with the result, but Adam, talk us through it. Is that Robert De Niro quote? I think it's Robert De Niro. Just when I think I'm out, they drag me back in. Just when he thinks he's out, he drags himself back in purely. It looked like he was going to get fired. He lives another day on his 20th life. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was a master plan by Pioli. It didn't look like a master plan, to be fair, because I was kind of messaging you when PSG first scored, and I was thinking, the worst for Milan, especially the way in the manner they kind of conceded that goal. But Milan were threatening. They made Hakimi on a numerous amount of occasions look silly. It didn't look like his best performance, and he looks a shadow of his usual self, to be fair. But then you could have kind of said that about most of the PSG players. You know, there's only a handful that I would have kind of called out and said they had a good-ish game. And I think that's being generous as well. I don't think necessarily. I think the standout performance was Donnarumma, considering like the abuse that he got prior to start
they
of
like
the
him
game.
coming
I mean,
back.
yes, Dollarumma, as they called him or referred to him. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the action itself, if we talk about that, I mean, yeah, within 30 minutes, Skriniar kind of peels off at the back post and heads the goal into the back of the net. You know, all of the AC Milan defense, I don't know what they were doing, because they were kind of sticking to certain markers, obviously at the front post, and no one was at the back. And there was at least 2 PSG players as well at the back post as well. So it was quite alarming from that point of view. And you're kind of thinking the worst, but within literally minutes, they take it to the other end. Giroud has an opportunity, hits saved by Donnarumma, and on the rebound, Leao kind of does this overhead kind of effort, which you think there was 2-3 defenders in the way as well, and they didn't do enough. There was a lot of kind of criticism towards Donnarumma around his positioning for that, but I don't think that's necessarily his fault. He's scrambling around back from the position of getting up as well, so I think that's a bit harsh. But yeah, I'd question mark the likes of Marquinhos as well as Skriniar for that positioning piece. But yeah, from that moment onwards, it kind of just felt like it was more in the ascendancy of Milan. It was very much end-to-end at one point, because there was just constant running between the two ends, really, to be fair. There was lots of chances for both sides. Kolo Muani puts through Mbappe at one stage, and he scuffs his shot. But, you know, it's Milan who take the lead. Rafael Leao kind of has an effort, and it seems like it's a foul in the box with Hakimi, kind of clashes with Hakimi. But then the ball kind of scrambles to the sides, it gets put in, and Giroud leaps like he always does, heads it classically into the top corner. And yeah, PSG defenders are just startled. They don't know what to do. And I think that really shocked the whole PSG side. I think we've got a question mark Enrique. I mean, I know we kind of question about philosophies with certain other managers, right? But I'm just not really getting what he's trying to achieve at the moment at PSG. And is it the same old issue? Like, there is a cultural thing with PSG, do you think? Or is it just they're not like buying into his philosophy? Or because I'm not actually understanding what he's trying to embed with those players at the moment.
I think he's starting a new PSG, right? I think they've very clearly gone with this, like, right, let's try and bring young players. Let's try and be like, they've got Zaire Emery, who is outstanding, like, from the youth system, and they've brought in like Vitinha, and they brought in these young kind of more practical players, and like, let's build this squad that's going to progress together, because it's taken them 20 years to realize that just buying superstars doesn't work. And I think Luis Enrique, it might be the manager that finally gets patience. I think he's an incredible coach. I think he's a very, very good manager. I just think it's taken a while for them to get this system and build in his system, and kind of for it to embed in, I suppose. The only issue is, do you get patience with PSG? We'll find out. They're currently 1 point behind Nice in Ligue 1, so they're not having like the usual running away with it that they normally do. But I've just seen them very, very fragile. Like you said, when the second Milan scored, it kind of felt like they knew where the game was going, and Milan scored 3 minutes after PSG scored. Like, that's like what Man United do, if you know what I mean. That's not like an early dig there. You're welcome, United fans. But like, that's not what a team that's confident, assured does, right? And I think that's kind of what we can see from this team. It's what we saw at Newcastle, when all of a sudden the tide started coming and they were just unable to do anything about it. So I think maybe that lack of experience a little bit in the side is kind of counting against them. I find the one I find really weird is Kolo Muani. Now, he's not like a player that I think he's good. He's fine. I never got the hype of him being like 100 million. I never he went to Frankfurt for nothing, right? And had that great season in Frankfurt. And then all of a sudden it was like they were getting quoted 100 million for this French striker. I just didn't see it. And I think I don't know if he's the player that's able to get the best out of Mbappe, and if he's a good enough target man to be able to bring in Dembele and Mbappe, because when you've got wingers like that, you need someone that can hold the ball up and play it through to them. Now, as you said, he did play Mbappe through, who then missed the shot. But so that he's capable of moments, but I don't know if he's got that consistency or the consistent ability to be able to get the most out of those two strikers, or if they need someone who's just a slightly higher level. But I also know Colomwani is very young as well. So there is something there that, he's a player who's going to progress as well. So I think attacking wise, we're just seeing these kind of this creaking system a little bit, and that it's just not quite clicking properly. I think the midfield is fantastic. Honestly, I think like between Vitinha, Ugarte, and Zaire Emery, that is a very, very, very exciting midfield. I just question if they need an upgrade in defense. Maybe, I don't know. It feels like they're just one or two pieces away, and just maybe next year, maybe next season, they'll be a bit more of a threat when this team's played together a bit more. Because if you look at this squad compared to their squad last year, it's very different. It's very different.
Oh, massively. Like you're kind of talking about the old class, the likes of Neymar, Verratti, Messi, for example, for a brief period of time. But yeah, I mean, also we forget about the likes of Sergio Ramos that wasn't really in the squad at half the time as well. And he was supposed to be that kind of boost of experience, but also bring that kind of winning mentality. And they've just kind of, for years, kind of gone down this kind of route of getting these kind of exciting names, but they haven't actually delivered. I do wonder if Verratti, that has been a bit of a miss, because I think he was the player that kind of got like the little moves, the little kind of intricate passing together, and he held it. It was almost like the glue, essentially.
He's one of the most I will say this forever. He's one of the most underrated players on the planet. People do not talk enough about how good that guy is. Like, he walks into any team on the planet. It's just the fact that he likes a party and a smoke that no other team touches him. But that's literally it. And he's opened up in interviews and just like, no, but I don't want to sacrifice that. That's who I am. I can do that and still play elite football, and I can do that at PSG because they're willing to let me do it. So I'll do it. But I think I absolutely can. He feels like my spirit animal. I'll be honest. But they've underestimated how much they miss him massively. But Milan fans are going to be saying, this is an Italian football podcast. Why aren't you talking about Milan? Why are you talking about PSG? And for Milan, we do have to say this is another randomly very good performance. It feels like, if nothing else, the players really like Pioli, because they do just pull it out of the bag when they need to, right?
I think this that statement does vary from week to week. I think you look at the expressions of the players coming off, that does kind of vary. But I think there is kind of a love-hate relationship with Pioli sometimes with the players. I think sometimes he does rattle them, but I think it's not without him trying to change things up, right? And we have to give them like special kudos to the likes of Calabria. I think Calabria's performances of late have been spectacular. And again, this is against someone like Mbappe. He managed to keep quiet. He did really well in that respect.
Well, remember, he did it against Kvaratskhelia last season in the Champions League.
Exactly. Like, this is the thing.
He's capable of doing this.
Yeah, 100%. And we saw probably the best of Rafael Leao, that we haven't seen him play like this for the majority of this season either, have we, to be fair?
No.
We know about Pulisic. I think he had a fairly steady game. Reinders, one of his better games. Not by much. It's not very hard to be a better game for Reinders, it has to be said. But Tomori's stand out for me. Ruben Loftus-Cheek coming back into it as well was so fantastic.
Good. He was so good. I think, like, I know some Milan fans, and they're really, 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 really pleased with how he's doing. Like how he's come in and just brought that kind of, it sounds like the Premier League TM kind of energy to what the Premier League likes to think it is, if you know what I mean. But that like dynamism, physicality, speed, technique, he brings it all. And we've been saying it for years. If this guy gets a run of form, if he gets solid game minutes, this guy is an unbelievable player. And it's so good to see him absolutely smashing it in Milan. And I think this was another fantastic performance from him. I think he was like man of the match. Honestly, I think he was the best player on the pitch in this game. And I think for him to be able to do it against PSG in the Champions League, like, it's just great to see. And another English player coming abroad to get an opportunity and absolutely thriving. But I think For Pioli, this is just the perfect timing. There is just something there. There's just enough there. But with
it buys some time.
with the Scudetto race as it currently is, so they're currently bloody hell 6 points behind Inter. That looks pretty bad. 6 points behind Inter and without a win in 3. He still needs to turn it around this weekend. He still massively needs to turn it around this weekend because this game will get you a bit of credit. But if you lose again this weekend in Serie A, then the pressure definitely hasn't gone anywhere.
Definitely comes on. Yeah, it 100% does. And I think that's the grail for now in terms of he needs to concentrate on the league itself, because I think the way Juventus are grinding out results as well at the moment, although not spectacular on the eye, they are kind of running away with Inter at the moment. So, it only takes one more defeat by Milan, and I think that gets stretched to being further than 6 points. And that's the worry for Milan at this stage. They need to be keeping up with the pack at the moment. But the same is the said of the likes of Napoli, for example. They are, really struggling this season. Not the same. I don't think their fans expect them to be in a Scudetto race. Honestly, I think they've already known that. I think the Napoli fans I've seen, I think they accepted it for where they are now. But I think at the beginning of the season they would have wanted to be in that pack.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Brutally honest. So I think that they were right in that assessment. But yes, Milan really need to keep up with it, and it was maybe a good sign that Okafor was given a bit of a run out as well. To be fair, so we spoke about that on Monday, didn't we? So. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity there, potentially, if he can. Obviously, he's going to be there with Giroud in terms of training and being able to pick up stuff, but I think he needs a run of games, like you said on Monday's live stream. No, I think hopefully we'll see him get a run of games at some point. They've got Lecce away this weekend, which is it's not an easy place to go. Not easy.
That's got draw written all over it, I think. I can definitely see Lecce taking something from that. But we've not gone in alphabetical order. I've just realised. We do have a running order, I promise, listeners. But we do also wing it. So we're going to go from the alphabet now. But I think Group F is the headliner, isn't it? Really. So I'll let us off. But Group A. Of course, Bayern, Copenhagen, currently in the qualification spots on goal -1 goal difference in their second in the group. What is that group? Let's start with the Danish champions, Copenhagen, taking on Manchester United. Now, when I saw Manchester United went 2-0 up, rather naively, I went, okay, that's that done then. They've done it. Oh, good work, lads. They've got it done. But only Manchester United can, more than Tottenham, find new creative ways to absolutely shit the bed and lose a game. The turning point here was the Rashford red card, right? Let's kind of start with that. That was the turning point in the game. We were talking offline, and I think both of us are slightly confused as to how there's any disagreement about the red card, right?
Yeah, 100%. I don't see why people are saying that there should be almost rewritten rules on this kind of, he didn't intend it. It's the intention bit that seems to be the huge issue recently. Is if he hasn't shown intent, then it's not a red card. I'm sorry, but it's studs showing the way his leg is on the Copenhagen players, like right leg, is just not comfortable for me. That could be like a shocking challenge that, could be worse than what he ran out with.
The guy's foot is planted as well. So the second you hit someone's leg when their foot is planted like that, anything can happen. It kind of reminded me of the Curtis Jones red card against Spurs. Where he's kind of, and everyone was saying that's not a red card, but if you slip on the ball, unlucky, but you've made a dangerous tackle there. I thought he also caught him with his elbow as he went round, because when I first saw it, I thought, he's been sent off for the elbow. And then I watched again and I was like, oh no, he's been sent off for that. I was like, okay, right. So I thought I couldn't see any contention there with the red card, but that was obviously the turning point in the game. At that point, Man United were comfortable. They had got into a 2-goal lead and they were playing well. And I think overall throughout this game, in periods, throughout this game, Manchester United played well, but then they had periods where they conceded goals. There was 6 minutes in the game cumulatively where they've basically conceded 4 goals and lost the game. And I think this is always going to be the issue with Manchester United now, that even if, until you Like, even if they have a good performance, until you manage to get that concentration over 90 minutes, you're always going to be prone to this. Like, and it kind of felt like, and Arsenal and United always get compared because they went on similar journeys, and Arsenal are kind of further down the road now. But like, there was a long time when Arsenal were doing the same. They were playing good football under Arteta, but then they just absolutely brain fart an own goal, or they'd get a red card, or just like these flash moments would just ruin the game. And it just feels like United are there at the moment, and they're never going to get those results until they can just concentrate for 90 minutes. Just concentrate.
100%.
That's all you need to do for now, is just concentrate on what you're doing. And instantly, I think you'll see a raise in results, because their performance was not bad. Like, I think overall they played well. What did you think?
They had periods of the game where they were the better side. I think if they have 11 men on the pitch, obviously, I think that is a different scoreline. The other thing to point out, Rory, was in terms of XG, this was the highest they've had this season.
Wow.
Like, they had the best XG they've ever had in terms of performance against another side. So this is against a Copenhagen side, by the way, that hadn't won in the Champions League for 7 years as well. So they hadn't won a game in 7 years, and they had this performance. Now, we can talk about the freak kind of, yes, red card happened, but still Man United were still able to control that game. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I felt like the way that Ten Hag had set them up, it was almost right that they were inviting that pressure. They're inviting that kind of thing, especially like when you look at the last two goals in particular. I saw after every incident, like every goal, should we say, they tried to pass it off the back, and they were screwing up so many times that Onana was scrambling around. Onana made a mistake. Dalot made a mistake. Even Harry Maguire was pressurized at one point, and he was struggling to get rid of the ball. That was the whole point. It was inviting that pressure, and that really just played into the hands of Copenhagen, because they brought on some attacking players as well at the same time. If you remember, Jordan Larson was one of them as well. And Rooney we'll talk about as well. I mean, he looks a hell of a talent, by the way.
Looks unbelievable.
But just the way they approached it was completely farcical. And I think it goes back to Ten Hag. I mean, there's still, I can't understand why there's still this element of Man United fans that still have this belief that he's a good manager, he will be able to turn it around. And I love that they have this trust, but I just don't see what they see. I do not see in terms of like the way they set out in that particular game. I mean, there's a proportion of blame to the players, right? In terms of that performance. Look at Dalot, for example, in the third goal, I think it is, that got them back into it.
Both of those two goals are kind of on him. The 3-3 and the 4-3 are mad, because they're all from down his side. It's from him not checking over his shoulder. It's from him not getting out quick enough. I also think Garnacho holds quite a bit of blame for the last goal as well, because he just stands there on the edge of the box and watches. But I think, there's only so much Ten Hag can do when Wan-Bissaka is spamming a ball so hard at Onana that in such a terrible angle that he can't control it. It goes out for a corner, then they can see for the corner. Like, there's only so much Ten Hag can do. I don't think he managed the game particularly badly. Honestly, I think once you go down to 10 men, you're going to invite pressure, because you're not going to do fucking big Ange and insist on a flat back seven.
No. But do you know what I thought?
You also have to, like, at some point, you have to turn around and say, okay, abandon the playing out from the back, boys. We just need to, we can't have this pressure now. But I also think that could come down to the players. I don't know.
There's an element of that, but I also found, naturally, I suppose, to an extent, you do sacrifice some width when you are down to obviously 10 men. But then surely once that kind of second goal goes through, you kind of go, do you know what? We just need to put bodies in terms of that midfield to keep hold of the ball and just be able to hold on to it a lot more. Because that was the key element, right? Was they weren't getting it past defensive lines, right? So it was that midfield that needed to then, in that instant, just step back and just come and help the defenders. I did not see that happen for the third or the fourth goal. That ultimately, I think that lies in Ten Hag, but it does ultimately as well. I think you talk about the experienced midfielders there. The likes of Bruno Fernandes,
Well, I also
Scott
think
McTominay.
the
Don't get me wrong, he's
substitution
been
of
experienced as well.
like bringing on Mason Mount at the end.
Oh, that just makes
It's
no
a
sense
weird
at all.
one. It's a weird one
No.
because I don't know what Mason Mount's there to do. Mason Mount doesn't know what Mason Mount's there to do.
Yeah.
It felt so weird because he's not if there's one, I don't know what Mason Mount is, but I know he's not a defensive midfielder, right? And
Yeah,
it just
100%.
felt such a weird. It did feel like a weird move. But then you look at the bench and you're like, well, he's brought on Amrabat and at half time and after the red card, and he's like, added a bit more solidity, and he's kind of learnt from taking him off against Man City isn't the best thing to do. If you know what I mean, he's kind of learnt from that lesson. But I think maybe it was just a bad night all around. But I also think that just the lapses in concentration. And Diogo Dalot, I don't know how you don't check over your shoulder. I just don't understand it, because I think when I watched it, he sees the man. You see him look, and he sees the man.
Yep.
And then the guy continues to run and he just doesn't look over again. Now, I don't know if he thinks that someone else is picking him up, but there's no red shirt within 50 yards of him, right? Like, he has all the time in the world. I just don't know why you just don't take another look. Like, it's absolutely baffling. And then the last goal is just embarrassing defending. Like, and as I said, and as you kind of said, with the midfielders not tracking back and not fucking putting those yards in, Garnacho, who, by the way, was shushing the fucking Copenhagen crowd when Bruno Fernandes
Yeah, of course he did.
Such a cocky little prat. I really don't like him. When he was shushing the crowd, and then he stood there and watches this wonder kid just absolutely beautifully finish the winner into the net. I thought it was quite a poetic moment, I'll be honest.
Yes.
It also summed up the just the lack of work ethic in a lot of the players in that team. Because I think when you're a winger, it's easy to look busy chasing lost balls and, balls you're going to get. And you can turn around and look at the midfield and go, oh, that's your fault. Or you can run around and press when your system isn't to run around and press. And other players go, what the fuck's this guy doing? He's just showing off, right? It's easy to look busy. But to actually put effort in is to track back and follow that runner. When you're running back to your own goal, that's when it fucking matters, work ethic. When you're up against the wall 3-3 with 10 men, you've got to run that extra 10 yards. You just have to. And I just think it summed it up massively for me. But maybe I'm reading too much into it because I don't like him. I don't know. that could also be the case. But terrible night for Manchester United. They are currently on bottom. I went really northern then. They're on the bottom of the table.
Bottom of the table.
Points on bottom of the table. And they've only got 2 points more than Celtic have got in the competition this year. So when you say it like that, it sounds a bit mental, doesn't it? Elsewhere in the group, very quickly, Bayern Munich did beat Galatasaray 2-1 in the end. A bit closer than it should have been.
Yeah.
Who got the goals here? Did Harry Kane score?
Harry Kane got both of them.
Score. He got both of the goals, exactly.
Got both.
But the goal from Galatasaray I really enjoyed as well.
Oliveira.
Yeah, it was a really nice goal. Really
it was very close. And Mario Icardi almost had a say in one of the goals that got disallowed. So it was him that was slightly offside, but his back kind of flick on header set up the initial goal in the game that was disallowed. So had that gone in, I think there could have been a different scoreline there in Munich. But Munich gets it over the line. Good performance by Harry Kane. Harry Kane was unlucky. There was a few chances he had, hitting the post, hitting the one stage, I think, a side netting as well. I seem to remember. Thomas Muller almost had a goal as well on his 102nd appearance in the Champions League. So close. And that would have made it 3-0 at the time as well. So, yeah, unfortunate for Thomas Muller there. But, yeah, a great performance nonetheless from Munich, who pretty much see this group as the top, I think.
Yeah, they're 12 points, 2 games left. They've qualified.
Yeah.
They are through. Congratulations, Bayern. I look forward to Arsenal playing you in the next round. We have Group B coming up. It's Arsenal's group. Arsenal 2, Sevilla 0. I have been massively underwhelmed by Sevilla across these 2 ties.
Yes, they've been poor.
Holy crap.
Very poor.
I really genuinely thought when they came into our group, I was like, oh, fuck, we got Sevilla. they're definitely doing us.
Normally
And they
hard.
have been
Yep.
so poor. They offered absolutely nothing. I thought the team selection yesterday was a bit mad. Like Rakitic dropped, but then when he came on, their
He looked
level
different.
instantly improved. And you're like, oh crap, like why? Well, thanks for not starting him because our midfield had a fucking right easy day. Like, so I thought the team selection was weird. And we were able to keep Enesri out of the game completely, which is important, obviously. Like then getting those big balls across to Enesri is kind of their main attacking threat, really. So, but have you been disappointed by their levels before we get to Arsenal? Have you been disappointed by them in general? I just assumed they were better than this.
I think what they did last season covered over a lot of cracks, it has to be said. They struggle in the league in terms of form. They've got a new coach as well, it has to be said, Rory, leading up to this game. So Diego Alonso was brought in for this game. So it's not been straightforward for Sevilla. They're in huge kind of financial troubles as well at the moment, hence why they're not being able to kind of reinvest this. So Champions League, this is all about the money for them. At this stage, it's going to be all about pride. If they can get into the basically Europa spots, which is going to be challenging, I'll be really honest. I think it's all in the hands of PSV and Lens in the group for those kind of second and third spots at the moment in the group. And it's quite a fascinating tie, that PSV Lens game, because Lens, based on that previous performance against Arsenal, struggled in this game, and PSV every time on the counter looked like they were going to score. Just every time they looked like they were going to score, and unfortunately, it's only one goal in the end that kind of sewed it up for PSV. But
they should have
been
had
at least 2 or 3
at the end where Lozano shot instead of passing it to the striker, and the striker was absolutely
Bakayoko,
fuming. And I'm completely on his side because Lozano was never going to score from that angle. And I feel like as he hit it, I just heard Napoli fans going, yep, there he is. That's Lozano just hitting a shot that's never going to go in. But yeah, that was criminal how he didn't pass that, honestly. But for Arsenal, huge performance. The fact that Sevilla had their first shot in the 97th minute kind of shows how much domination we had. And this is a squad as well that's like low key got loads of injuries. I'm kind of slowly counting the injuries, and I'm like, actually, we've got no Urian Timber, no Gabriel Jesus, no Martin Odegaard, no Thomas Partey. We've got no Emil Smith Rowe. I think Tommy Yasu had to come off. We've got a lot of players who are injured at the moment, and we're still managing to just get these results. But I think this is the time where we've actually had the performance to back it up as well. I thought Jorginho was fantastic. I think European nights at the moment really suit him. I think the Premier League at times he can get overrun and he can just get lost a little bit. But against some of these European teams, he's a little bit more able to dictate play a bit. So I was really, really impressed with him. But the player who absolutely stood out head and shoulders above everyone else, apart from the fact that he didn't have the end product, unfortunately, was Gabriel Martinelli. He gave the Sevilla wingback, now I'm going to get his name, Pedrosa, I think it was. He is going to be having nightmares about Gabriel Martinelli because I think he went past him 9 times in the game, and just every single time just dribble past him inside, outside, just honestly, it was embarrassing at times, to the point where Pedrosa just got sick and kicked him off the pitch at one point. I was like, just fuck off, will you? Like, I'm sick of you. So Martinelli was absolutely fantastic. But Declan Rice is now a level of performance so good that we don't even reference it.
That's incredible.
It's just him and Saliba. There's a tackle from Saliba in the game where he sprints back and you're like, tackle. And he doesn't. He waits, and then just times it perfectly. Bang, gets the ball, stood up, bang, gone. Like, he is just unbelievable. Those two players are just hitting such a level now consistently that it's just incredible. But it was great to see Saka get the goal. Great to see Trossard get the goal. I like Trossard as a centre forward. Like, what do you think of Trossard as a centre forward? I think he offers a little bit more than Eddie Nketiah in terms of like on the ball.
Yeah, I think he's certainly more effective than he is on the wings. I
Mhm.
think there's something about him where he's got that kind of. I think it reminds me of a bit like Eden Hazard. Do you remember when Eden
Okay.
Hazard was kind of played in that middle role where
Mhm.
he can keep the ball, he can kind of drive forward, and he can kind of draw those fouls as well. But I think, yeah, he's got a bit of touch like about him as well. I think a silky touch about him, and you saw it with the goal, the way he took it as well.
Yeah.
He
Really.
kind of understands the runs, doesn't he? I feel he understands the runs better than Nketiah sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think, Nketiah, we're going to get like really hard working performance in terms of just running down the channels, trying to
Yeah.
make a nuisance of himself, right? Whereas Trossard, I feel like if you get him the ball or you try and get him to those positions, he's got a little bit more now. So he kind of runs down those channels that will kind of naturally get him into the position. So, yeah, there's something about it. I would say question marks about maybe a better defense, whether he's been really truly tested.
Yes.
But I think
Yeah. Yeah.
against something like Sevilla, perfect
Yeah.
opportunity
No,
to
I thought
show
it
his
was. I thought
skills.
it was a fantastic performance from him. It's an
Mm.
option for us because I think sometimes Eddie does just run out of steam. And the Saka goal was just beautiful to see. It's his
Yeah.
first goal in, I want to say, 6 matches.
Mm.
So it's good to see him get a goal. Really well taken. The second he spun it onto his left, I was like, yeah, okay, it's game over. And he just leaves the defender. The defender
Yeah.
just runs past him, cuts inside. Classic Saka goal. Really nice to see him get that. I saw that Leandro Trossard, every single one of his goals for Arsenal has been assisted by Bukayo Saka. That is an
Wow.
absolute
That's insane.
partnership. That's an absolute partnership.
Mm.
And yeah, they clearly really enjoy playing with each other. So it's nice to see. Really good evening for Arsenal. It was much, much needed. And yeah, even Zinchenko came on and didn't look terrible. He needs to play himself into form. The only thing I'm concerned about at the moment is Martin Odegaard because we've not really heard anything about an injury. It's just like, oh, he can't play. And I was like,
That's basically
any
he's injured. There is
any
something
further,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but any further details on that,
Just
Mikel,
the won't.
or
No, no, no,
have we
no,
just
no.
gotta trust this process? I don't know.
Got to
Anyway,
trust the process. Got to
we're
trust the
gonna leave.
process.
It's got us this far, so I'm gonna keep trusting it.
Yeah,
But
fine.
Group C, we're going to move on to Group C. And I think my eyes deceive me. There was a Real Madrid game where Bellingham didn't score. What the hell is
Well,
going on? Washed. Absolutely washed.
am I not mistaken? I don't think he
Did he not
played.
play?
That's the reason why. No, that's why
That's
he didn't. Yeah,
why.
because he was
I'll let him off
injured
this
from
time
the
then.
previous
I'll let him off
game.
this time.
So that's why. Yeah, I'm just checking. Yeah, he definitely did not play because of that reason.
Still
So,
washed. Still washed. It's
uh,
done. Hype's over.
wh-
Move on.
what I would say is Brahim Diaz had a very good game. I'm sure Milan fans are missing him right now. But yeah, very good performance by the likes of Rodrigo and Vinicius Junior starting to score goals
Mhm.
as well. So it's good for him to get back on the scoring frame because it's always been reliant on obviously Bellingham. I think there's been a lot of question marks if Bellingham doesn't score, who does score for Real Madrid? And they were lucky enough in this occasion. And look, Braga had a penalty to begin with in this match. Vasquez gives
Great
away
save
a
from
stupid
Kepa.
penalty. But yeah, Lunin, I didn't even
Oh,
know about
Lunin. Sorry,
him.
it was. Yeah, yeah,
Lunin,
yeah.
yeah, because there's no Courtois for this match. But yeah, good performance by Real Madrid, professional, and yeah, probably unlucky from Braga, a lot of effort, but yeah, not in this match to kind of overcome the Real Madrid. So
Yeah,
yeah,
wow, it's a tough
good
place to
win.
go, isn't it? Let's go for Napoli, Union Berlin, and
Oh,
well, bloody hell, Union Berlin actually managed.
they
They
did
got
all
the
right.
latest goal this time,
Goal,
and
yeah.
managed to hold on. They are learning lessons. Of course, it was against Napoli, as they draw 1-1. This is a bit of a missed opportunity for Napoli, I feel.
Oh, massively. There was a lot of opportunities for Napoli in this match, in particular. Kvaratskhelia on
Mm,
more than one occasion really should be doing better because there was one opportunity where he's just one-on-one with the defender and all he has to do is cut it in and have a good shot on goal. Bonucci on his return, by the way, for Union Berlin, playing in this particular match, doing his shithousery. But I think the standout was Politano for
mhm.
Napoli. He had a fantastic game, it has to be said. But yeah, question marks about, I suppose, in the middle of the park, really, for Napoli. And maybe to an extent, they really did struggle in terms of maybe they missed Osimhen. I think that, I mean, I know how good Raspadori is, but Osimhen's kind of the big man that you need for
Yeah,
these
yeah.
occasions. Zielinski, I thought, had a really good game as well, pulling all the strings and, you know, he was doing a lot of those kind of efforts on goal as well. So he was unlucky on one opportunity where I think it would have been better for him to have like at least passed it or assisted one of his colleagues at the time rather than go for goal. But hey, you know, great performance by Union. Gives them a chance at least of trying to get that Europa spot, I would say, at this stage. I think Napoli will confirm that second place in the group. And yeah, more question marks about Garcia. More question marks about Garcia.
They will never ever quite go away, will they?
No.
Moving on to Group D and the Italian interest here, Inter against RB Salzburg. It took them a while. It took them a long while, but a Martinez penalty, of course, Martinez gives them the 1-0 win, qualifies them for the knockout round, and that's all that needs to be said, really. Professional job done, right?
Yeah, really good performance by Inter. They had a lot of kind of, I suppose, appetite for this game. You know, I think these are the kind of games that sometimes you do worry about how Inter approach it because, you know, a smaller side in Salzburg. To be fair, on the balance of play, though, if you look at it, Schlager keeps them in the game. Nicola Barella has some fantastic moments in particular. And just the passing, just,
oh my God. It was incredible. Yeah.
It was, and moments before that goal, by the way, Rory, Lautaro does hit the crossbar. Schlager has to tip it onto the crossbar even. So, you know, it's unlucky. Thuram as well had a very good game, I would say. He was brought down at one stage and Inzaghi was going absolutely apeshit on the sidelines. But yeah, it wasn't a penalty, I'm afraid. He just dived a little bit. And
he was compared
to
Samuel Eto'o this week by Bobo Vieri. Which is
that was it.
incredible.
Yes,
I don't know if I can see what he's getting at. It may be the profile of player, but is it a bit early to be chucking around names like Samuel Eto'o?
I think it's a bit early, but I think he, if I remember rightly, in this live stream, he admits that he didn't even fancy Thuram before he joined. You know, he didn't see much in him as well, which was understandable. Look, his goal scoring record wasn't spectacular, but I think he's just maybe a bit misty-eyed. I've seen those performances against Milan and think
they just want 2010 back, don't they? That's all it is. They just want 2010 back, I think. But a great win for Salzburg. Elsewhere in that group, Real Sociedad. I am sticking to my this is the team that's going to upset in the knockout rounds. They win 3-1. Benfica managing to claw one back in the second half, but scoring in the 6th, the 11th, and the 21st minute. Oyarzabal, of course, getting on the score sheet. But the player that is on everybody's lips is Zubimendi, is the player that everybody is after. Another fantastic performance from him in the midfield role, and a great win for them to be able to dispatch a experienced, tricky Benfica side that's been there and done that in the Champions League. It says a lot about the quality of that team, right?
Yeah, 100%. And this isn't the Benfica side that we know from previous seasons. They are really struggling. Lots of kind of shouts for Roger Schmidt, the current manager, to potentially leave and vacate the role. He's had a hard gig, I would say, this season, and not helped by the performances of his players. But yeah, fantastic performance by Real Sociedad, who proving that sometimes, you know, it's nice to have these kind of fresh teams enter these kind of stages. So yeah, fair play to them. I hope they progress really far in this competition. And yeah, you've done spectacularly well on this prediction for once. So well done, mate.
I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. We'll see how far it goes. We're going to go to Group E, where the Italian interest, Lazio. Another disappointing week for Laziali. But they do get the 1-0 win. Immobile gets the goal just on the brink of half-time, and they managed to get the win. Is this just what they needed ahead of the Derby della Capitale? Because a loss here or a draw would have really sent them in a different way, right?
Massively. It's a big result when you consider Feyenoord were no pushovers either. They were a good side going into this match, and they proved themselves a numerous amount of times. They caused some issues for Lazio, but that goal was superbly taken by Ciro.
Yeah.
Ciro, that was the old Ciro that we associated, not the one that takes penalties all the time and scores goals from the penalty spot. He is genuinely showing his worth. And there was a lot of rumours, I think, prior to this match about Ciro Immobile's kind of future. I think he said, if I don't feel like at home, I might as well go to Saudi Arabia. I think there was quotes around along those lines. I think, look, there's that kind of process with Ciro. Like, maybe he's outstayed his welcome now. Like, he's done as much as he can for Lazio to a degree. But look, we said in our last Monday live stream about Lazio, look, there's a whole piece of Sarri does not like the players they've got.
No, they're not his players.
They're not playing to his ways of working. I don't think look at Kamada. I don't think he's proved himself much recently. He's been disappointing of late. But that's not just aimed at him. I think it's a whole squad at the moment. Look, the only player that I can say has done really well this season is Providal. Providal
is having a hell of a season, by the way. He made some incredible saves in this game. And right at the death, he made the save from the header. And I thought that is as big a moment as him scoring the winner or whatever it was in the
exactly against Atletico.
It's like a massive moment, like a huge moment. I've got him in Fantacalcio this year, and I could not be happier. He is having a hell of a season. Yeah, Providal's killing it. But elsewhere in that group, oh God, Celtic are the dark horses. Now you said this. You said Atletico. You fancy Atletico to get far in the Champions League. And now Morata and Griezmann are both top of the scoring charts. Morata absolutely smashing it. Now, obviously, they were aided by Celtic being shite and Celtic getting someone sent off.
There is that.
But this is still, and also the collection of goals Atletico scored. There are so many bangers in this game, like so many fantastic goals, just long range efforts. Joe Hart, he was getting so angry, and I kind of felt for him at one point, but I was like, "Oh, you're a cocky git, you probably deserve it." But some of the goals were absolutely outstanding, and
they were incredible
on a show, right?
I mean, there's one particular incident where it was disallowed because Morata goes into an offside position, but he hits a shot, which offside kind of. No. I know, right? But Joe Hart saves it, and it goes behind him, and it goes into the net. And if that was given a goal, that would be hilarious for all to watch. But look, I love Riquelme on that wing. He looks so exciting. Koke, we know about his credentials. Look, when you've got Exel Witsel playing centre back as well, I mean, this is kind of an evolved version of Atletico, isn't it? This isn't like what we associate with Diego Simeone to an extent, but I'm waiting for that shithousery to come later on.
It's always there in the back.
It's always there. He's working. Do you know what? I reckon in training sessions he does a session which is just pure shithousery. Yeah. Like how do we make
once every couple of weeks? Just keep it fresh in their minds. And now, guys, we've got to imagine we're away to Barcelona and we're 1-0 up in the 70th minute. Go.
Now you're doing 20k running. Go basically.
Yeah, it's always in the back pocket. But yeah, you're right. Witsel at centre back is absolutely mental. I also saw Saul in this game. And I was like, he was at Chelsea, wasn't it? That was a bit mad. But it's good to see him back at Atletico where he belongs, really, getting on the score sheet. But yeah, Atletico put on an absolute show. The Celtic fans, I think it went from like a fun weekend or a fun like trip away to like, actually, can I get my money back? Yeah, because that was fucking painful. We're going to continue our trend of not talking about Group G because it's fucking boring. And we're going to talk about Group H every year Shakhtar get one result, right? They beat Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. Every year they get one, and they have turned up and they've beaten Barcelona 1-0. And I could not be happier. They're in the Champions League every bloody year. And they're always pretty decent. They're always just good, aren't they?
They are massively underachievers in this competition as well. Because when you look at the kind of group of players they've had previously in the past, I've always fancied them to be the kind of team that might progress to the next stage as well. But this time, the other caveat we have to give is that a lot of those players aren't household names. They're not necessarily all the skilled players.
They're all from the
And,
youth system, basically.
most of them are from the youth team system. There is one, I've forgotten his name, but he used to play for Barcelona. Do you remember the Ukrainian that joined from Shakhtar to go to? He's a 37-year-old. I've forgotten his name now off the top of my head.
No, I think it's Rakitsky.
Yeah, I think it's someone like that. But yeah, I think in terms of like the actual performance, like if you think about the whole backdrop of like the Ukrainian league, they're not playing regularly. They have to cross to the border before they can even go to the home games equivalent as well. I mean, this is a fantastic achievement, and Barcelona were pretty poor on the day, and that kind of sums it up. But yeah. Kudos to Donetsk. Hopefully, they can push themselves, and maybe, because there's only 3 points, right, in this difference between them and potentially second spot at the moment. So, if they can do it, if they can overhaul it, they've got 2 games to go. I'm gunning for them. Come on,
they've got at least the Europa League, because Antwerp have been slapped around like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
So they've got at least the Europa League, but as you said, 3 points behind Porto. It all to play for, really. So fantastic performance there and result for Shakhtar Donetsk. So bloody happy about that. So that is our Champions League roundup, guys. In the Europa League, the headlines are Brighton have won away in Amsterdam 2-0. Ansu Fati and Simon Adingra, he's the next one, guys, getting the goals for Brighton. Let's look at the English interest. To lose Liverpool. Yes. I didn't expect them to lose this one 3-2. A controversial last-minute equaliser from Kwanzaa ruled out. I saw Klopp was quite angry about that. But Toulouse do get the win. Absolutely massive, that. Big fan of that result. Sorry. West Ham have beaten Olympiacos 1-0 with Lucas Paquetá getting the goal. And looking for Italian teams, Atalanta have beaten Sturm Graz 1-0 with Jim City getting the goal. Beautiful. And in the Conference League, Conference League, I've not got it. What's happened in the Conference League, Adam?
I'm going to go through them. So I'm just trying to pick out the big games because I'm trying to find any English or Italian representatives at this stage. There doesn't seem to be many.
It's like looking through a list of. It's like looking through a list of Ryanair destinations. Looking at the Conference League.
Yeah, where's my cheapest return ticket? But yeah, Chukwuemeka against Fiorentina. Fiorentina win away 1-0. So fair play to them there. Aston Villa have beaten AZ Alkmaar at home 2-1, and in the other group game, Lego also win 2-0. So that sets up a very big game because obviously Legia take on Villa soon at Villa Park, but there's also the return leg of the AZ Alkmaar game as well, which was quite feisty after the first game in Alkmaar. But otherwise, I can't really see any standout performances. PAOK drawing 2-2 against Aberdeen. And I think it's Helsinki JK losing at home to Frankfurt 1-0. That's the only really standouts here, Rory, I would say. Glimt getting a win away at Besiktas. There you go. That's kind of a bit of a...
Yeah, talking of overachievers, Bodo Glimt are right up there in terms of overachievers in European football. Goddamn.
Yes.
Good. Well, we're going to leave the European review there for now. We're going to take a very quick break and we're going to come back with the Premier League and Serie A previews after this.
Hi, I'm David Wheeler and you're listening to the Anglo-Italian podcast.
We are back and welcome to your weekend preview. We're going to go very quickly because we're very aware of time and the Premier League. It all kicks off on Saturday, 12:30 in the UK. Wolves hosting Tottenham. Can Tottenham complete the absolute melt that was Monday night? They've got half their squad missing. Here's hoping. To kick off the 3 o'clock kickoffs, we have Manchester United hosting Luton Town, fresh off a great result against Liverpool. It'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Arsenal taking on Burnley. Love that we've got a 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff. Don't get enough of them. Crystal Palace taking on Everton. That's got draw written all over it. And in the Newcastle United slot, guess who's playing in the Newcastle United slot, Adam?
Is it Newcastle United?
It's Newcastle United, as Bournemouth hosting Newcastle has been picked for the late kickoff on Sky. Who could have guessed it? Then going into Sunday, we have Aston Villa hosting Fulham. Aston Villa will be very keen to bounce back from the loss against Forest. Brighton hosting Sheffield United, a good chance for Brighton to get back into a bit of form. West Ham hosting Forest. I fancy a bit of an upset there. Liverpool hosting Brentford, and then the late kickoff on Sunday. This is a spicy one, really, Adam. Chelsea hosting Man City. Cole Palmer up against his old team. Raheem Sterling up against his old team. Do you think Chelsea can get anything here? They've done well against the bigger sides this season.
No, I think they're going to capitulate. I think we'll see Man City, the way they played midweek against Young Boys, I'm afraid they set themselves up for it. I mean, look, we thought Haaland had tweaked something in his ankle, and yet he scores a wonder blast past a young goalkeeper. I think this could be embarrassing for Chelsea, because I don't think necessarily Chelsea were that great against Spurs. They took advantage, yes, but I think they made it hard work at times as well.
They took advantage.
Right, they took advantage of 2 men being sent off.
And they barely did it. Like, they had 20 attacks and scored 4 goals. Their conversion rate is absolutely stinking. I can only unfortunately see City turning up and absolutely spanking at me. But I will be praying for a Chelsea win again, as I did on Monday. Maybe lightning will strike twice in the same week. We can hope. Adam, take us through what looks like a pretty exciting Serie A weekend.
Yeah, we've got a jam-packed week of fixtures here in Serie A. So if you're listening to us on Friday, then we'll start off with Sassuolo taking on Salernitana at 5:30 p.m. for that thunderbolt of a game. But then we are joined by Genoa and Hellas Verona at 7:45. So could be a good game there. If we move on to Saturday, then we've got, as you mentioned earlier, Rory, Lecce taking on Milan at 2 p.m. Then at 5 p.m, be prepared to be bored off the scales, because we've got Juventus taking on Calgary at 5 p.m. Ranieri returning back at Juventus. But then potentially an interesting game here, Rory. 7:45 p.m. kickoff on Saturday evening. We've got Monza at home to Torino. I'm not expecting too much, but I'm liking the Monza squad at this moment in time. Moving to Sunday, we've got Napoli at home to Empoli. I'm expecting Napoli to win handsomely here. Potentially. We just don't know which Napoli side decides to turn up here, Rory. But then we've also got Fiorentina taking on Bologna. Bologna, who have been unbeaten in the last 10 games. Let's see if they can extend that to 11.
That's going to be a close one, you know. That's going to be a close one. I think there's going to be goals in that game. If you're free on a Sunday afternoon, there's worse ways to spend it than watching Fiorentina Bologna.
I would say so. And Fiorentina need to get back to some sort of rhythm at the moment, let's say that way. But yeah, I'm not holding too much hope for Italiano. I'm fancying Bologna here, to be fair. Udinese, off the back of that win at Milan, they host Atalanta. That could be an interesting game as well there, Rory. But if we move on to the big game this week, 5 p.m, Derby Capitale. I've said it properly this time around. Lazio taking on Roma. Lot of beef between the two managers here. I'm sure we'll reflect that later on. But Rory, which way does this go? Because Roma have got that history of scoring late goals at the moment. Lazio been indifferent in terms of their form so far. And the interesting thing is, if either side wins, it puts them back in terms of that mix for kind of that top 7-6 mix, I would say. How are you fancying this?
I feel like Lazio's recent record against Roma has been pretty decent. I feel like they've kind of had the better of it the last couple of derbies. So I think they're going to be feeling confident coming into it, even if their form hasn't been fantastic. But I do think Roma get a result here. I think they're just overall in better form. They're a bit in better shape. Their team is clicking a bit more. It all depends on if Dybala plays, right? If Dybala's fit and able to play, I think he should be. If he is, then that makes a huge difference. I think the fact that Lukaku's had such a good start to his career in Roma so far, I think that could be huge as well. So I'm going to say it's not going to have a lot of goals. I'm going to say 1 red card on the pitch, maybe 2 on the bench. And I'm going to say a Roma win. What do you reckon?
Oh, I'm just fancying Lazio for some reason. When you back a Roma side, you kind of feel like
You're asking for
Lazio are going to
punishment.
do more. And for some reason, it's just in my head. I feel like despite the kind of form that Lazio are in, they seem to do well in front of their fans, especially when it's these kind of games. Sarri needs something as well. And he seems to always do it against Mourinho. He always seems to do it. I've not seen Mourinho get the edge over Sarri. So despite the mind games, Rory, I think it's going to go the Lazio's way, which will help and please Fede Farco. So
exactly, friend of the show. We will see. I'll definitely be tuning into that one. And we'll get a live reaction, or we'll get a reaction after the game for that game. Definitely. And then the last game of the weekend.
Last game, it is Inter taking on Frosinone at 7:45 on Sunday. So an interesting game there, but I'm expecting Inter to win handsomely as well. So yeah, that's your summary of Serie A fixtures this weekend.
Beautiful. We are. I don't know what. There's fireworks going off in the background. I don't know what just happened. Is that like a thing? Is that a thing? What just happened? Anyway,
I don't know.
They're not an audio feature, guys, but I think I might have magic powers. I need to. I need to
click onto YouTube. Let's put it that way. Just see it.
You'll need to watch it on YouTube. That was a bit mad. Oh, I don't know. Now I just hey, I'm magic. Right. So now we are going to take a very quick break, and we're going to come back with the mastermind quiz. It's not working. Oh, back in a minute. Welcome to the Mastermind Quiz. Are you ready? I feel kind of ready. Not quite. I'm about to fall asleep. Not through boredom, through sheer tiredness. I hope you're not going to fall asleep through boredom either.
It was just those after effects, Rory. That's
exactly.
what it was.
I'm knackered after setting off all those fireworks. But hopefully you're not falling asleep through boredom, listeners. This intro has been terrible. Adam, I'm going to let you take over and host.
So, Rory, we go into our mastermind quiz. You have 2 topics you can choose from. Now, I've kind of gone for something different here. So, your choice of question for one of them is, who am I? So, I'm going to describe the career of an individual, and you have to just guess who that person is. Or, alternatively, we've got your favorite football nicknames.
I'm going to leave it to the end of the season, just to keep the listeners hooked. Let's go for who am I? I'm quite excited by this.
Oh, good times. Well, let's get that time set up. Then stopwatch at the ready. Rory, are you ready?
I think so. Let's do it.
We'll do this in 3, 2, 1. I made my international debut for Brazil in 1993 and scored in the game. I played in 2 World Cup finals, and my club career saw me play in Brazil, Italy, Angola, Spain, Greece, and Uzbekistan. Correct. Yes. Number 2, I've played in Germany, Italy, Austria, and France. I have won Serie A and scored the first ever golden goal in international football.
Bierhoff.
Correct. Number 3, I have played in the Conference, League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League, the UEFA Cup, Champions League, and the World Cup.
Vardy.
Incorrect. I was the first Liverpool player to win the Ballon d'Or. I scored 40 goals for my country and have played in England and Spain. Correct.
Boom.
Number 5, I was originally a striker before becoming a defender. I played 11 seasons for the same club before managing them. I've won 2 Bundesliga titles and a Champions League. Time is up, but I'll let you answer that.
Beckenbauer.
Incorrect. It's Jurgen Klopp.
Oh, damn, really? Wow.
Yes. Well done, Rory. Very well done on that one. So that was 3 total.
Fucking a game.
What a result there. So we'll rerun through the answers. Obviously, you got the first one was Rivaldo, correct.
It
Second
was
one
the
was
second you
Oliver
said
Bierhoff.
Angola. The second you said Angola, I was like, oh, it's Rivaldo. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. That's probably the giveaway. This third question was one that probably you didn't really understand or kind of get the dots together, and I didn't want to give it away. But I've played in the conference: League Two, League One, Championship, Premier League, the UEFA Cup, Champions League, and the World Cup. If I mention he played for Fulham, does that help?
It probably should. I'm going to say John Collins. I don't know.
Okay, not a clue. He played for the Republic of Ireland.
Oh, God, I should really freaking get this now.
I'll add another club. Liverpool.
Why is my brain gone completely?
I'll give
I
you
can only
answer.
think of Steve Finnan. Steve Finnan?
Correct. Yeah,
Oh,
Steve Finnan.
yeah.
He's worked himself through the leagues. There you go. Obviously, you got number 4 right, Michael Owen, and number 5 was Jurgen Klopp, as announced. Do we want to go through the other 5 just quickly?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, number 6. I have played for Chelsea and spent time playing in Turkey. I've been crowned African Footballer of the Year 4 times and the African Cup of Nations twice.
No,
Incorrect. Samuel Eto'o.
Oh,
number 7, I have won leagues in Italy, Germany, Portugal, and Austria. I also won the European Cup, both as a player and as a manager. European Cup, should I say?
I don't know. No, I don't know. My brain's
Giovanni Trapattoni. There you go.
Of course it is.
And number 8, I am the manager who first named David Beckham as England captain.
Hoddle? No,
Peter Taylor. Taylor in his caretaker role.
He was England manager.
Yeah, I know. Everyone forgets about that. Next one. I've won the World Cup and European Championship at international level, and I won the Champions League on 2 occasions as a manager of 2 different clubs.
Won the World Cup and European Championship.
Think German.
Beckenbauer?
No, Jupp Heynckes.
Keep going Beckenbauer. German player, Beckenbauer?
And last one. I've worn 7, 17, 28, and 9 in my career, playing my football across England, Spain, Italy, and Portugal, and technically Saudi Arabia now.
Ronaldo? No, that's
correct.
Cristiano
Ronaldo.
Oh,
there you go. Yes.
There
we go.
I'm so bad at shirt numbers that I honestly there might as well be. If you asked me to name Arsenal player squad numbers, I would honestly struggle. I just pay no attention to it. I think it's because I hate maths.
Well,
I don't know.
That's the next topic for next week.
I've just massively shown my hand there. Yeah. God damn it. Never mind. That's why I don't play poker, guys. Good. So, guys, we are finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We've enjoyed it, as always. Thank you for joining us. Adam, anything to say before I give our customary quote that we've actually prepared this week and send these people on their way home?
No. Have a great weekend and enjoy all of the football.
Beautiful. And in build-up to the Derby della Capitale this weekend, it could only be a quote from the war of words between the great Mourinho and the great Maurizio Sarri, where Mourinho clapped back, as the youngsters say. If someone is offended by his statement, it should be Slavia Prague. I always respect my opponents. Slavia is a very good team, and what makes a difference is how a manager thinks about matches. Maybe the difference between a manager that has won 25 titles and one who has won very few is exactly that mentality. You play every match, and there are no friendlies. We will see you next time, guys. Grazie, a dopo.
Ciao, ciao.